event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has received the acting Prime Minister Sifir Rayeb, whom he officially installed in his position and entrusted him with forming a government. And in Qatar, a preparatory meeting is being held ahead of an emergency Arab Islamic summit tomorrow Monday in response to the recent Israel attack targeting Hamas leaders on its territory. And the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, has warned that the Gaza Strip has become a wasteland due to the Israeli war in the enclave. Those were the major developments. Now the full news edition. I'm Asya Bakar. Good afternoon. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has received acting Prime Minister Sifir Rayeb, whom he officially installed in his position and entrusted him with forming a government. It's worth recording that Sifir Rayeb was appointed by the President of the Republic as acting Prime Minister in replacement of Nadel Arbawi. And the Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs, National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, has praised the Algerian-Italian partnership, describing it as excellent and dynamic. And the details with Mohammed Khater.
During a press conference at the ministry's headquarters, Mr. Attaf emphasized that among the partnerships offered to the African continent as part of international cooperation, the one with Italy is the most influential, as it is based on concrete projects. Emphasizing that the relations between Algiers and Rome has risen to the forefront in just a few years, particularly in the commercial sphere, the Minister of State highlighted the diversification of investments in the energy sector and the supply of natural gas to this friendly country, not to mention major projects such as green hydrogen, optic fiber, and others in Europe, driven by the Algerian-Italian dynamic. He expressed Algeria's satisfaction with the results of its relation with Italy, both qualitatively and quantitatively, inviting other countries to follow the same path in terms of mutually beneficial partnerships.
فبالتالي حقيقة العلاقة بين الجزائر وإيطاليا.
As a matter of fact, the relationship between Algeria and Italy is a strategic relationship. This is from quantitative aspect. We must not forget the qualitative aspect. I said it in my speech and made sure to say it in my speech. Among the existing partnerships with Africa, the most honest and most influential partnership is the Italian partnership. What is offered to African countries are guided partnerships or built on field projects, and this is what made the relationships between us and Italy in the political field undoubtedly excellent. But in the economic field, there is a great comfort for Algeria with regard to the outcomes of this relationship.
Mr. Attaf also recalled that South-South cooperation is part of Algeria's commitment to strengthening its relations with the Group of 77 representing developing countries established in Algiers as part of a constant effort based on the need to promote this form of cooperation. Asked, moreover, about reports relayed by certain media outlets that the International Court of Justice, ICJ, had received a complaint from the authorities in Bamako, Mali, against Algeria, Mr. Attaf clarified that Algeria has not received any notification on this matter from this body, adding that the ICJ itself had denied the existence of such a request.
La Cour internationale de justice n'a jamais été saisie.
The International Court of Justice has never received any statement of claim, as it is called in the jargon of the International Court of Justice. It does not exist. I add that on the technical level, when the International Court of Justice is informed about a case which concerns any state whatsoever, the first thing that it does is to inform, and I can assure you that we have never received any letter from the International Court of Justice informing us of an official referral, formally none.
It's worth recalling that Mr. Attaf specified that the Algiers edition of the IATF was a resounding success, recognized by all the continental institutions that contributed to its organization and all the participants, exhibitors, economic operators, and visitors, adding that the figures are there to confirm that the results of this edition were exceptional, record-breaking, and unprecedented.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. The Council of the Nation has highlighted the progress and steps taken to empower women in Algeria in light of the personal attention and interest expressed by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, and his clear support for their status. Jamal Salmani has more.
In a statement issued after a meeting chaired by the Council President, Mr. Azzouz Nasri, on the occasion of International Democracy Day, celebrated on the 15th of September each year, and designated by the International Parliamentary Union for 2025 under the theme Achieving Gender Equality Step by Step, about its great satisfaction with the strides and steps taken in favor of women's empowerment in light of the personal care and attention expressed by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, and his clear support for the status of women, and his emphasis on the need to promote their roles as a fundamental pillar in building a victorious Algeria. The Council noted that the status and position of women in Algeria, as well as their image in the national discourse as a symbol of sacrifice and freedom, has undergone changes and shifts in many areas, reflecting the state's will and determination to embody the virtue of equality between men and women and the principle of gender parity as a constitutional commitment and achievement that reflects the broad-minded vision that stems from the adoption of local concepts of change that take into account national identity and international commitments. The office also highlighted that these efforts reflect Algeria's keenness to raise the status of women, providing them with an advanced constitutional legal framework open to international and regional cooperation, empowering them politically, supporting them socially and economically, and working to involve them in national development. The Council did not miss the opportunity to recall the injustice inflicted on Palestinian women in Gaza, noting the awakening of conscience expressed popularly and officially throughout the world, which is due to the right to declare the recognition of the State of Palestine. It also stressed that Palestine still needs other bold and unprecedented steps to put an end to this entity, and that has violated the sanctity of the country, denied rights, and humiliated souls, and to put an end to injustice and double standard. In the same context, the Council recalled with regret the situation of Sahrawi women, stressing that Algeria will not tire or falter in speaking out and raising its voice for the dignity of Palestinian and Sahrawi women, and for women in every country of the world to live in an atmosphere of peace and security.
And in his message on the occasion of International Day of Democracy, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that at a time when democracy and the rule of law are under assault from disinformation, division and shrinking civic space, the efforts of men and women who are shaping their societies are more vital than ever.
Democracy is powered by the will of the people, by their voices, their choices, and their participation. It thrives when the human rights and fundamental freedoms of all are upheld, especially the most vulnerable. A democracy that excludes is not democracy at all. Today, as we mark 18 years of this International Day and 20 years of the UN Democracy Fund, we honor the courage of people everywhere who are shaping their societies through dialogue, participation and trust. At a time when democracy and the rule of law are under assault from disinformation, division and shrinking civic space, these efforts are more vital than ever. The United Nations itself is a forum for dialogue, rooting in the opening words of our Charter, we the peoples. This is a powerful reminder that our legitimacy and purpose derive from those we serve. Let us reaffirm democracy as a force for dignity, inclusion and peace, and work together to ensure it delivers for all.
That was the message of the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on the occasion of International Day of Democracy. Now, the National People's Assembly has affirmed that Algeria's experience in empowering young people and women is part of a historical process dating back to the Glorious Revolution and embodied by the far-reaching reforms initiated by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune. Jamal Salmani.
During his participation at the 11th World Forum of Young Parliamentarians in Lima, Peru, a member of the Algerian National People's Assembly, Nasser Bouakaz, went back on Algeria's experience in empowering young people and women and strengthening their participation in political and diplomatic life, stating that this approach is part of a historical process dating back to the glorious liberation revolution. On this occasion, Mr. Black has emphasized that young people and women in Algeria have never been marginalized. On the contrary, they played a key role in the country's liberation from colonization. Young people fueled the revolution and carried the torch of freedom at a time when Algerian women were writing a unique epic through their participation in the armed struggle and activist action to lay, with the generation of independence, the foundations of the modern state. The Member of Parliament added that, based on this revolutionary legacy, Algeria has adopted a vision of comprehensive reforms, making the involvement of young people and women in the various state institutions a political and constitutional priority. He then recalled that the latest constitutional amendments that have reinforced this direction by strengthening the representation of young people in elected assemblies and enabling women in an unprecedented manner to assume more important roles in decision-making circles. The Algerian Member of Parliament then said that Algeria considers investment in women and young people as an investment in the future of the nation, welcoming the position of the Peruvian Congress, which praised the Algerian experience and expressed its willingness to strengthen cooperation and the exchange of expertise in this field.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. Algerian companies participating in the 4th edition of the Intra-African Trade Fair IATF 2025, held from September 4th to 10th in Algiers, welcomed the opportunities offered by this important economic event, which enabled them to establish strategic partnerships with the companies from African countries, thus helping to strengthen the presence of Algerian products in the various continents' markets. More details with Mohamed Khatel.
In statements to the Algerian press agency, APS company executives emphasized that this edition of IATF had given a strong boost to the process of integrating Algerian companies into their continental environment, promoting their access to new markets and expanding their areas of cooperation. In this context, the CEO of the Public Infrastructure Studies, Control and Assistance Group, JICA, indicated that the agreement signed by the group's various subsidiaries during this 4th edition will enable the exchange of expertise in the technical and scientific fields and participation in international calls for tenders to be launched by African countries such as Guinea, thus opening new prospects for the group, which already operates in the Mauritanian, Chadian and Congolese markets. For his part, the deputy managing director of the IRIS Group stated that this edition had made it possible to introduce Algerian products to African economic operators. Thanks to its encouraging investment climate and favorable legislative framework, Algeria can only strengthen its leading position in Africa, he said, emphasizing the importance of the contract signed by the group at the fair for the export of household appliances to Zimbabwe worth $50 million. The communications manager of the Label Agri-Food Group stated that the fair had allowed the group to meet new partners on the continent, leading to the conclusion of a trade agreement worth $200 million with the Ugandan company Jabber. The 4th edition of the fair benefited not only industrial groups and large companies, but also micro-enterprises and startups. In this regard, the National Microcredit Management Agency, ANGEM, reported that 7 women entrepreneurs benefiting from the agency's support were able to conclude contracts during the fair. According to the agency, these results highlight the ability of housewives and rural women to meet the challenge of competitiveness in the domestic and international markets, and their role in strengthening entrepreneurship as a key driver of African integration. For their part, participating African companies praised the achievements made by the fair, particularly through the interconnection of the economic fabric of different countries on the continent, highlighting the fruitful complementarity and the exploration of opportunities for cooperation with Algerian companies. In this context, the Executive Director for Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises Development and Export Promotion at the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board stated that this country considers Algeria a key partner in several areas, emphasizing that IATF 2025 has laid a solid foundation that will pave the way for the conclusion of concrete agreements between the two parties in the near future.
And the UN General Assembly has adopted a resolution endorsing the New York Declaration, which seeks to recognize the Palestinian state and advance a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The resolution, formally titled the Endorsement of the New York Declaration on the Peaceful Settlement of the Question of Palestine and the Implementation of the Two-State Solution, passed with 142 votes in favor, 10 against, and 12 abstentions. The declaration had already been co-signed by 17 member states during an international conference held at the UN headquarters in New York in July. And the Speaker of the National People's Assembly and President of the Arab Interparliamentary Union, Brahim Boughali, welcomed the adoption by the United Nations General Assembly of a decision endorsing the New York Declaration on the implementation of the two-state solution and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. According to the statement from the lower house of parliament, Boughali stressed that this decision represents the only way to ensure security and stability and achieve a just and comprehensive peace in the region. For its part, the Arab Interparliamentary Union welcomed the efforts made by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in conducting consultations and drafting the New York Declaration, stating that these steps reflect a sincere commitment to supporting the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people, particularly the right to establishment of their independent state with Al-Quds as capital. And to the situation in Palestine, at least 45 Palestinians have been killed since dawn by Israeli airstrikes and gunfire across the Gaza Strip, including 32 in Gaza City. The fatalities come amid intensified Israeli bombardments and shelling across the Strip, targeting residential neighborhoods, displaced people's camps, and other civilian areas. 2 more Palestinians have died in the past 24 hours due to famine and severe malnutrition, bringing the total number of famine-related deaths in Gaza to 442. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, has warned that the Gaza Strip has become a wasteland and completely obliterated as a result of the escalating Israeli offensive in the region. The UNRWA pointed out that children are starving, families are forcibly displaced, and people are terrified, affirming that with a large-scale Israeli assault happening now, political will and decision-making is needed more than ever. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International, and Qatar has confirmed that it will host an emergency Arab-Islamic summit tomorrow, Monday, in response to the recent Israeli attack targeting Hamas leaders on its territory. And Majid bin Mohammed al-Ansari, advisor to the Prime Minister and spokesman for the Foreign Ministry, said the summit will discuss a draft resolution on the Israeli attack on the state of Qatar, submitted by today's preparatory meeting of Arab and Islamic foreign ministers. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International, and to Western Sahara now. The representative of the Polisario Front in Switzerland, diplomat Abi Bushraya Bashir, stated that the international community is delaying the decolonization of Western Sahara seriously endangers the security and stability of the region. Jama Salmani.
In a speech at the international conference in Geneva, Mr. Bashir pointed out that the international community's delay in ingraining in the decolonization process has been and continues to be the main cause of the failure and blockade of the creation of the Arab Maghreb Union. At the European level, the Sahrawi ambassador stated that the continuation of the conflict contributed to paralyzing partnership initiatives between the two shores of the Mediterranean, poisoned the relations of the countries of the region with Europe, and led Rabat to resort to all forms of blackmail to influence the Union's position on the issue of Western Sahara. He then highlighted the United Nations' inability to enforce its resolutions and the provisions of its charter, despite the nature of the conflict and the legal status of the territory, as well as the decisions and agreements on the stages of the roadmap for a solution which is 80% complete. A referendum has yet to be organized. Even on issues that should not be subject to controversy, such as human rights monitoring and the protection of civilians, the Moroccan veto remains the norm. He said rather than having the Security Council impose the implementation of the remaining 20% of the MINURSO mission, some permanent member states tend to fall into the Moroccan trap, which seeks to buy more time to promote the seizures of the self-governance.
With this, we come to the end of our news bulletin. I invite